She wasn't supposed to be home until tomorrow, but something told her to open that door, quietly. Ever felt it? That chill in your stomach when something's off? When silence isn't peace, it's hiding something. She followed the scent. Not hers, someone else's. She followed the sound. His voice, and a woman's laugh. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She took her wedding ring off and left it beside the perfume bottle. What do you do when love betrays you, but you still believe in love? Welcome to Mr. Charles Stories, where the truth isn't always loud, but it's always felt. Today's story isn't about revenge. It's about clarity. It's about a woman who walked away from everything, to find everything she deserved. If you've ever loved someone who forgot how to love you back, stay close, because this story will speak to the quiet part of your heart, the one still healing. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, because the next few minutes might just change the way you look at love forever. Let's begin. The plane landed 10 minutes early. By the time Soraya stepped into the Uber, the Atlanta sky had already dimmed to soft indigo, and the streetlights blinked on like stars trying to compete with the skyline. She didn't tell anyone she was coming back today. Not her neighbor, not even her friend Keisha, who usually insisted on tracking her flights. It wasn't a plan. It was a feeling. That ache in the chest that doesn't come from sadness, but something else. Like a whisper from the body that says, something's wrong. The driver didn't ask questions. He dropped her off at the underground entrance to the high-rise and drove away without waiting for a tip. Soraya liked it that way. No conversation, no judgment, just silence. The lobby lights felt colder than usual as she entered. The marble floors gleamed under her suitcase wheels. Every detail was familiar. The fresh orchids by the front desk, the soft jazz playing overhead, the scent of citrus and clean linen. And still, a tension hung over her like static. She didn't stop at the concierge. Her keycard still worked. She tapped it against the private elevator and stepped in alone. As the doors closed, she checked her phone out of habit. No texts, no missed calls. No reason to feel like her heart was sitting too high in her chest. But it was, and she didn't ignore it this time. When the elevator doors slid open into the penthouse, her heels hit the marble floor like a soft warning. Click, click, click. She didn't announce her arrival, didn't call out his name. She set her suitcase beside the console table, keys placed down with the same care someone might give a sleeping child. She walked inside like she didn't want the walls to know she was there. The air was clean, but too clean. The citrus scent was there, but it was fighting with something else. Floral, sweet, familiar, but not hers. Soraya paused at the edge of the hallway. The lights were low. Soft music played in the distance, drifting faintly from the bedroom. It wasn't classical. It wasn't even jazz. He hated jazz. It was R&B, slow, seductive. Then came a sound she hadn't heard in months, a woman's laugh. Then Silas's voice, soft, amused. Not the voice he used with clients, the one he used with her before. Soraya's hand reached out and steadied herself on the kitchen counter. She didn't want to walk forward, but she did. Every step to that bedroom felt like peeling back layers of denial. The late nights, the quick kisses, the way he smiled without warmth. It all aligned now. Her hand closed around the doorknob. She turned it slowly. The door wasn't locked. It creaked open just enough for her to see everything. Silas was shirtless, on their bed. The same one they'd picked out together from that boutique in Buckhead, his idea of compromise between comfort and luxury. And the woman? She was laughing, wearing Soraya's robe, the white silk one Silas had gifted her on their first anniversary. The initials SL were stitched into the collar. Now it clung to another woman's body. Soraya didn't breathe. She didn't flinch. She simply looked, and what she saw ended everything. The woman leaned over him. Silas's hands were on her hips. His eyes were closed. They didn't see her standing there, not until she spoke. Calm, quiet, measured. I wasn't supposed to be home until tomorrow. Silas's eyes shot open. His hands froze. The woman gasped, scrambling off the bed, yanking the sheets to cover herself. But Soraya didn't look at her. She looked at him, at the man who once told her, "There's no one else. It's you, only you." He sat up, mouth parting, hands trembling like he wanted to explain. But she didn't give him the chance. She turned to the dresser, took off her ring, the platinum band with a single diamond, modest by Billionaire standards, but chosen because it looked like her. She placed it next to her perfume bottle, then turned around. Silas called her name. Soraya. She didn't stop. She didn't run. She walked, head high, no rage, no tears, just silence. And that silence screamed louder than any slap. Soraya didn't look back, not when Silas called her name, not when she heard the woman scrambling behind her to gather her things, not even when his footsteps padded quickly across the bedroom floor. The hallway stretched before her like a memory she hadn't earned. The scent of her own perfume still lingered in the air, on the nightstand, in the robe that no longer felt like hers. The same robe now wrapped around someone else, a stranger with her initials stitched on the collar. Her fingers gripped the handle of her carry-on. She rolled it toward the front door, never breaking stride. "Wait, Soraya, please, just let me talk," he said, voice cracking behind her. She didn't flinch, didn't pause. She reached the door, wrapped her hand around the knob, and turned it. He stepped closer. "Baby, please, it's not what it looked like." She stopped, just for a second. Then she turned her head, calm, and looked him in the eye. "Don't lie," she said softly. "Not now." Silas swallowed hard. His mouth opened, but no words came out. For a moment, she saw it in his face, not regret, not yet, but fear. The kind of fear that comes when you realize you've lost something you can't replace. She opened the door and stepped into the hallway, let it close behind her. And that was the moment everything truly ended. She didn't cry in the elevator. She didn't fall apart in the lobby. But by the time she stepped outside into the crisp night air, the world felt heavier. Not because she wanted to stay, but because of what she'd carried for so long. She pulled out her phone. Dozens of texts were already flashing across the screen. "Silas, I'm sorry. Please don't leave. Silas, can we talk?" It meant nothing. "Silas, you were never supposed to see that. Silas, you're the only one I want. Silas, answer me. Please." Then came the calls. She watched them pile up. 5, then 10. By midnight, it was 27. She didn't pick up once. The south side of town was quieter. Her apartment was small, maybe 700 square feet. But it was hers. No doorman, no marble floors. Just a second-floor walk-up with creaky steps and the scent of old pine in the hallway. She slept in sweatpants under a too-thin quilt, the same one she used before Silas came into her life. And that night, she didn't fall asleep right away. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan, watching the blades spin slow and steady. Her mind didn't replay the betrayal, not yet. It replayed the moments before, the stillness in the air, the scent, the silence. That's what stuck. How quiet it was. How easy it had been for him to forget what they promised each other. She turned onto her side, clutched the pillow, and blinked at the dark. Still, no tears. The next morning, she woke early. She brewed her own coffee. No in-house barista. No imported beans. Just the cheap brand from the corner store downstairs. It was bitter, and she liked it. She checked her phone again. More texts. A voicemail this time. "I was stupid. I messed up. Please, don't give up on us." She deleted it. She opened her closet, pulled out a pressed blouse and slacks, her old work clothes from when she used to run meetings and pitch commercial spaces to high-rise developers. She hadn't worn them in over a year. She brushed her hair into a low bun, applied simple makeup, lip balm instead of gloss, and then she looked at herself in the mirror. Same eyes, same cheekbones, same calm. But this time, the quiet inside her wasn't fear. It was resolve. She called Keisha first. "Girl," her best friend said as soon as she answered. "Why do I feel like you're about to say something crazy?" "I need a ride," Soraya said simply. Keisha showed up 20 minutes later. No questions, just hugs. They drove in silence for most of the ride, until Keisha finally asked, "You okay?" "I will be," Soraya said. "Just not today." They didn't speak after that. They didn't need to. When Soraya arrived at her old job later that week, the front desk receptionist blinked twice before gasping. "Soraya? You're back? Are you consulting or—" "I'd like to apply for the opening," she said. "If that's still available." The HR director rushed in. He offered her coffee, asked if she needed time to transition back, offered a month of flex hours. She declined. "I'm ready," she said. "I didn't forget how to work." She didn't want pity. She wanted purpose. By the end of the day, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message with a photo attached. A blurry picture taken from a distance, Silas in a restaurant with the same woman. The caption from some tabloid blog read, "Billionaire's mystery flame." Who is she? She stared at the screen for a long second. Then she tapped delete, not because it didn't matter, but because it no longer controlled her. Long before penthouses, tabloids, and broken silence, Soraya Langston lived in a 2-bedroom house just off King Street in Charleston. It had cracked shutters, a rusting mailbox, and a screened porch that moaned every time someone opened it. But it was home. Her grandmother, Miss Bernice, didn't believe in pity. She believed in God, grit, and showing up even when your voice trembled. Soraya never knew her father. Her mother left when she was 2, chasing a life that didn't include diapers or lullabies. Bernice raised her with hands that had scrubbed hospital floors for 30 years. She taught Soraya how to clean chicken with care, press clothes so sharp they could, cut air, and speak clearly enough that the world never mistook silence for weakness. On Sundays, they walked to church in dresses Bernice made by hand. On Mondays, they read the newspaper together while sipping tea, Soraya with sugar, Bernice without. "You don't have to be rich to be excellent," Bernice said, "but you better not waste your mind." That stuck, more than the hymns, more than the warnings about boys who smiled too wide. By the time Soraya was 12, she had perfect attendance, a drawer full of spelling bee ribbons, and a reputation for raising her hand before the teacher even finished the question. She didn't have time to be popular. She had goals. At 16, she got a job stocking books at a local black-owned bookstore. At 17, she graduated early and earned a full scholarship to Spelman. She cried quietly the night her acceptance letter came in, not from pride, but because Bernice cried first. "You did that," Bernice whispered. "That's your name on the letter. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small." She didn't forget. Even when the world tried to. College wasn't soft. She worked 3 part-time jobs, pulled double shifts on weekends, and still made the dean's list every semester. She didn't go to parties often, but when she did, she wore her best friend Keisha's lipstick and danced like nobody owed her anything. She dated once, maybe twice, but never deeply. No one made her feel safe enough to open up. Until after grad school. At 2008, Soraya earned her MBA and landed a mid-level analyst role at Branson and Royce, one of Atlanta's most competitive real estate development firms. She wasn't flashy. She wore clean neutrals, kept her heels under 3 inches, and took notes in every meeting, even if she was the one leading it. The men in suits noticed, but she wasn't there to be noticed. She was there to build something, and she was getting close. Then he walked in. Silas Marrow. He didn't announce himself with noise. He arrived with presence. While other executives barked opinions across the boardroom, Silas waited, observed, asked the question no one else thought to ask. When he finally spoke, people listened. He was only 4 years older than her, but the space around him felt wider, like he lived in a different rhythm, one where time bent to his will. Soraya studied him the way she studied data, careful, cautious, focused on what didn't add up. He spoke in clear sentences, didn't interrupt, didn't stare. But after the meeting ended, He held her gaze for one extra beat, just enough to linger. The first time they spoke alone was over coffee, an after-hours project meeting that ran long. "You ask better questions than most of the partners," he said, lifting his mug. "That's rare." She tilted her head. "I don't ask to impress. I ask to solve." He smiled. It wasn't charming. It was quiet, like he understood something other people missed. That night, he walked her to her car, didn't touch her, didn't flirt. He just said, "Be careful driving. I'd like to see you tomorrow." Simple, but it stuck. 3 months later, they had their first real date, a wine bar she couldn't pronounce, with a view of the whole city. He didn't talk about money. He asked about her childhood, listened to stories of Bernice, laughed softly when she told him about the iron that never missed a wrinkle. "You carry your past like it taught you," he said, "not like it hurt you." That's when she felt it. The click. The space between her ribs softened. He wasn't loud. He didn't promise things. He just paid attention. And in Soraya's world, that was intimacy. The next few months with Silas unfolded like soft chapters in a book she didn't know she was writing. Late-night walks after dinner. Thoughtful check-ins during meetings. No games. No ghosting. He moved deliberately. Every call, every gesture, every glance meant something. One Friday evening, after a team presentation that ran an hour longer than expected, Silas waited outside the office. He stood by her car with 2 coffees and a brown paper bag. "You didn't eat," he said. "You remembered," she replied. He shrugged, but his eyes held hers. "I don't forget things that matter." She didn't smile right away. She studied him, watched how his fingers didn't twitch, how his voice didn't rise and fall like it was chasing attention. He wasn't trying to sell himself, and that's what sold her. It wasn't a fast whirlwind, it was precise. One date became 3. 3 turned into weekly rituals, Saturday grocery runs, Sunday morning walks through the botanical gardens, weekday phone calls that ended in quiet goodnights. Silas didn't flood her life. He folded into it, and in doing so, made room for her to breathe. She learned his patterns quickly. He had a glass of scotch at 9 p.m., sharp. He reread contracts twice, always twice. He couldn't sleep without white noise. He kissed the inside of her wrist before he kissed her lips. Details like that stay in the body longer than heartbreak. By their 5th month together, he asked if she wanted to see his place. He didn't say penthouse. He said, "Where I live." When the elevator opened directly into the unit, Soraya blinked. Floor-to-ceiling windows, views of downtown, granite counters, Italian fixtures. Clean, minimal, untouched. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It's quiet," he replied. "But it's never felt like home." He walked over to the kitchen island, set down his keys and added, "Until you walked in." That was the first time she felt her throat catch, not because of the space, but because someone made her feel like she made something better without changing anything about herself. When Silas proposed 6 months later, he didn't plan a big event. It was a Wednesday night. She was wearing sweats. They were eating takeout on his balcony. He reached into the inside pocket of his blazer. Yes, he always wore one, even at home, and pulled out a small box. No speech, no build-up. Just, "You make me better. I want that forever. Will you marry me?" Soraya blinked at him. "Now," she whispered, almost laughing. He raised one brow. "Or next Wednesday. But I'm not going another year without calling you mine." She didn't cry. She said yes. And it wasn't because he was a billionaire. It was because he saw her. And she needed that more than anything. The wedding was quiet, private, and perfect. 30 people. A rented estate just outside Asheville. Her grandmother's favorite flowers on every table. No press. No social media. Just them. Silas danced with her once, hands low, his cheek resting lightly against her temple. He didn't speak, but his arms said everything. "I've got you." After the honeymoon, he brought it up gently. "You don't have to go back to work right away." She shook her head. "I like what I do." He nodded. "Of course. I just want you to have space. But 3 weeks later, he brought it up again. What if you didn't have to do it anymore? I want to, she said. I earned it. I'm not asking you to stop dreaming. I'm asking if maybe your dream has room to shift. He always phrased it like an offering, not a demand, not an ultimatum. So when she handed in her resignation 2 months later, she convinced herself it was her idea. Just a break, she told Keisha. Not forever. The first few weeks at home felt new. She turned the guest room into a reading nook, took yoga classes twice a week, experimented with new recipes. Silas encouraged her to pursue whatever she liked. But he got busier. More meetings, more weekend flights, more locked phone screens, and late-night texts he read with his back turned. Just tired, he'd say, kissing her forehead. Still, he always brought flowers, ordered dinner when she forgot, held her waist in the morning while she brushed her teeth. It didn't feel like lies. Not at first. It felt like routines stretching thin. Then came the absences, business dinners she wasn't invited to, trips to Miami with client partners she never met, rooms that went quiet when she entered, phones flipped face down the moment she sat beside him. Her body started to shrink, not physically but emotionally. She started apologizing before asking things, stopped pressing when he didn't answer. And that scared her, because she had never been that woman. One night, she asked, "Are we okay?" He looked up from his laptop. "What do you mean?" "You're distant." He blinked, closed the screen halfway. "I've got a lot going on right now. You know how it is." "You never used to leave me out of it," she said quietly. He smiled, the kind of smile that tries to erase truth. "We're fine, Soraya. You're just overthinking." Then he kissed her forehead, not her lips. Forehead kisses don't always mean affection. Sometimes they're the exit signs of intimacy. She slept alone that night, and the next, and the next. Still, she held on, until the morning he left for Miami again. 4 nights, he said. "I'll be back Friday." She stood at the kitchen island in her robe, the same white silk one he gave her a year ago, initials stitched in blue. "I'll cook Friday night," she said, hopeful. "You'll be hungry." He kissed her cheek. "We'll see." And then he walked out the door. No "I love you," no backward glance. That night, she booked a spa day, got her nails done, let the silence press in, and something inside her whispered, "Go now." She packed quickly, only what she needed. A single carry-on. No note, no message. She took a cab to the airport. Didn't overthink it. Didn't rehearse what she'd say. She wasn't sure what she expected to find, but she knew what she wasn't going to do. She wasn't going to beg. Not for the truth. Not for love. Not for anything. She didn't owe the past another explanation. She deserved her eyes open, even if what she saw would hurt. At first, the changes were too subtle to name. A missed breakfast, a forgotten kiss, a pause before answering her questions. It started with small absences, mental more than physical. Silas would be home, technically, but his attention wasn't. He'd sit beside her on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling with eyes that never once lifted to meet hers. She'd ask how his day was, and he'd offer one-word answers. Fine. Long. Meetings. Soraya stopped asking after a while. It didn't feel like a choice. It felt like survival. The first 3 months after she left her job were a blur. She tried to fill her days with meaning. She attended interior design classes, managed a small side blog about quiet living, even mentored a few young women at a local community center. But most of her hours were spent alone, in a penthouse filled with silence. The space was beautiful, every inch curated, styled, cold. A designer had done the work. Soraya had merely approved the final plan. At the time, she told herself she was trusting the expert. But looking back, she realized it was the first thing she surrendered. Her voice, her opinion, her presence. All of it became negotiable. Silas's schedule grew unpredictable. Last-minute trips, unannounced absences. business dinners that turned into overnight stays in cities she didn't know he flew to. Once, she asked if she could join him on a trip to Chicago. They had talked about visiting together months earlier, a winter getaway, jazz bars, deep dish pizza, holding hands beneath the hotel's golden lobby chandelier. But when she mentioned it, he barely looked up. That one's packed. Not the best time for sightseeing. She nodded. Of course. No argument. No pushback. And that was the scariest part, how easy it was to swallow disappointment. Their bedroom turned into separate time zones. He went to bed later, woke up earlier. Some nights she woke to the glow of his phone lighting the room, his back to her, fingers moving quickly. Work, he said once, not turning around. Go back to sleep. She did, but the air between them thickened. His hands used to find her waist in the dark. Now they stayed tucked under pillows, cold, safe, still. She missed his voice most of all, the low, thoughtful way he used to ask what she dreamed about. Now, he barely asked what she ate for lunch. She journaled quietly, started with small entries, 1 or 2 lines. He didn't say good night again. The house is clean, but I feel messy. I miss being seen. She never let herself cry while writing, not because she wanted to be strong, but because she didn't want the page to carry her grief. The penthouse had a balcony that overlooked the city. At night, Soraya would sit out there, glass of water in hand, listening to the hum of distant traffic. She used to imagine what people in those cars were talking about: lovers arguing, best friends laughing, parents soothing tired kids. She didn't imagine herself in those cars anymore, because even in all that noise, she felt more alone in her quiet tower than she had in the small Charleston house where she grew up. She sometimes whispered to herself, "This isn't what I said yes to." When she brought it up one Sunday, casually, not confrontational, he was slicing limes in the kitchen. "You've been distant lately," she said. He glanced up. "I've been busy." "I know," she said carefully. I don't feel like we talk anymore." He wiped his hands on a dish towel. "What are we talking about now?" "That you're gone even when you're here." Silas exhaled, slow. "You think I'm cheating on you?" "No," she said too quickly. Then softer, "I think you've already left. You just haven't packed yet." He didn't respond. He kissed her forehead and went to his office. She stood there alone, staring at the limes he never finished cutting. Her friend Keisha asked about him less and less. Even their conversations felt like they were skimming the surface of deeper waters. "You sure you're okay?" Keisha would ask. "I'm comfortable," Soraya would answer, because comfort had become her way of saying, "I don't know how to explain this without sounding ungrateful." She didn't want pity. She didn't want people to say, "I told you so." She just wanted something that no longer existed: safety. One night, Soraya woke up and realized he wasn't beside her. Again. She walked to his office, but the door was locked. She knocked once. No answer. Silas? Nothing. She stood there for a minute, not angry, not curious, just aware. This was who they had become, 2 people in the same space, living separate stories. She went back to bed and didn't wait up. The trip to Miami was supposed to be routine. 4 days. Investor dinners, board meetings, a real estate tech summit at one of those hotels where the marble was too shiny and the staff too quiet. That's all he told her. Thursday through Sunday. "I'll be back late." He kissed her cheek, barely. She stood at the kitchen counter, sipping green tea wrapped in her robe, the same one he gave her, the same one she would never wear again. "You want me to ride with you to the airport?" she asked lightly. "No need," he said, already reaching for his phone. "Driver's coming in 10. You packed light. It's Miami. I won't need much." She stared at the single garment bag and slim briefcase. No laptop, no paperwork, just silence. Her gut twisted, but she didn't speak. She didn't accuse. She simply followed him to the door. He turned. "You good?" She smiled. "Of course," and watched the door close behind him. She didn't text him that day. He didn't call. She went to the spa. 2 hours of steam, lavender oil, and scalp massages. But her mind never stopped spinning. Why had he packed so little? Why didn't he want her to ride along? Why had he pulled away lately, not just emotionally, but physically? She opened her notes app and started typing. She'd done this a lot lately. Not because she needed evidence, but because gaslighting often sounds like love. He always used to check in before bed. No missed calls, no text, no hotel room selfies. He always sent one. 3 weeks since we touched each other. She stared at those words for a long time, then deleted them. She was tired of explaining red flags to herself. That night, she ordered Thai food, ate half of it in front of the TV while the news played. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. She tried journaling. Her pen hovered over the paper, but she couldn't write anything. She pulled out her suitcase instead. Not a big one, just her favorite carry-on. The one she used when she used to travel for work, before her whole world became Silas's wife. She packed light. A couple dresses, a scarf, neutral flats. She didn't need much, just answers. By morning she had booked a one-way ticket, used points. No confirmation email forwarded to their shared inbox. No hint she was coming. Her flight left at 10:45 a.m. She didn't tell Keisha, didn't even call Bernice. She brushed her edges, fixed a simple low bun, and wore linen pants with a soft blouse. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. She moved like a shadow through the airport. No makeup, no wedding ring. It was the first time in months she didn't feel like someone's possession. The flight landed 20 minutes early. As the plane taxied to the gate, she opened his Instagram. No stories, no posts, no trace. That was odd. Silas's company thrived on optics. His assistant usually uploaded at least one picture of him at a summit or cocktail mixer. But this time, nothing. She opened her texts. No message. Checked his location. It was on. Still showing the hotel address. At least he wasn't smart enough to hide that. She closed her phone and looked out the window. The Miami sun glittered off the tarmac, bright and unbothered. Her gut felt the opposite. At the hotel, she didn't ask the front desk for his room. She already knew which one it was. Suite 2103. She'd booked the same place with him once during their second year of marriage. She remembered the layout. 2 bedrooms, big windows, a living room with a cream sectional and velvet throw pillows that looked like props from a set. She walked down the hall, suitcase wheels whispering across the thick carpet. She paused outside the room. No sound. Then, laughter. Soft, light, a woman's laugh, followed by his voice. Low, familiar, playful. Then music. Slow R&B, not jazz, not classical. She closed her eyes. She could feel her heart in her teeth. Her hand curled around the door handle. She tried turning it. It clicked. Unlocked. Silas never left doors unlocked. Not in hotels. Not in penthouses. Not even at home. She opened the door. What she saw didn't shock her. It confirmed everything her soul already knew. The robe came first. Her robe, white silk. Initials on the collar. The woman wore it like it was hers, like it had always belonged to her. Silas lay on the bed, hands on the woman's hips. His shirt was gone. His eyes were closed, until they weren't. "I wasn't supposed to be home until tomorrow," Soraya said. His eyes flew open. The woman gasped, reaching for the sheet. The music kept playing. Silas sat up, color draining from his face. "Soraya, wait." But she was already turning, already walking away. No yelling, no scene, just silence, the kind that screams. Soraya didn't hear the woman's scream behind her, didn't register Silas stumbling out of bed, calling her name. She didn't move fast. She didn't need to. The calm in her chest felt unnatural, but it was real. She walked back into the hallway of the hotel like she'd simply forgotten something. As if the room behind her didn't just shift the ground she stood on. By the time the elevator doors opened, she had already turned off her phone. Not airplane mode, not silent. Off. because there was nothing left to say, and she wasn't going to let noise disguise itself as closure. At the airport, she didn't cry. She bought a one-way ticket to Atlanta. No checked bags, no hesitation. The ticket agent didn't ask questions. The security guard didn't glance twice. And when the plane took off, she didn't look out the window. She closed her eyes, not to sleep, to breathe, in, out, in again. Her breath reminded her, you didn't imagine it. You were there. You saw everything. And you walked away without raising your voice. She didn't need to raise her voice. She raised her standard. When she landed in Atlanta, it was raining. Soft, not heavy. Like the sky understood she'd had enough weight for one day. She didn't go back to the penthouse. Didn't text Keisha. She called a rideshare and gave the address of an extended stay apartment. She had bookmarked a year ago during one of Silas's colder spells, just in case, not because she didn't trust him, but because she never wanted to be unprepared again. The apartment was small, one bedroom, peach-colored walls, a faint lemon scent left behind from the last tenant's cleaning spray. It wasn't beautiful, it wasn't polished, but it was hers, and for the first time in a long time, no one knew where she was. No assistant, no housekeeper, no press, just Soraya, alone and safe. She didn't unpack that first night. She sat on the bed, lights off, and let the silence wrap around her like a heavy coat. She didn't sob, didn't scream into her pillow, didn't shred anything. She'd already given enough energy to pain. Now she gave her energy to distance, from him, from the marriage, from the version of herself that tried to fix something that didn't want to be whole. Silas called that night, again and again, 27 times before 3 a.m. She let the phone ring, then die. When the battery shut off completely, she didn't reach for the charger. That silence, she welcomed it, not because it hurt less, but because it meant she wasn't going back. The next morning, she opened the curtains and let the cloudy light pour in. No maids came to offer breakfast. No voice called out her name from another room. She boiled water, brewed cheap black tea. She took the mug to the window and sipped slowly, watching the cars crawl by on wet pavement. This was the first morning she didn't have to smile for anyone, didn't have to perform peace, didn't have to pretend the air between them was breathable. And she didn't miss it. She missed herself. So she started finding her again. She made a list in her journal that day. What I am keeping. My peace, my voice, my standards, my truth, my name. What I am leaving. My silence, my guilt, my justifications, my wedding ring, his lies. She didn't cross anything out. Every item was final, like a contract only she had to sign. And this time, she didn't need a witness. 3 days passed. Silas sent flowers to the penthouse. She wasn't there to see them. The doorman texted her privately, 100 roses. Again. Want me to donate them? She replied, yes. Thank you. And that became their quiet system. He sent grand gestures. She sent them away. No explanations, no openings, just space. She didn't want revenge. She wanted release. The tabloids moved fast. By the end of the week, headlines trickled onto gossip blogs. Billionaire tech CEO Silas Marrow spotted with unknown woman in Miami suite. Where is Soraya Marrow? Fans question her sudden absence is the perfect marriage cracking. White robe. Wrong woman? Keisha called. Left a message. Girl, I saw it. Say the word, and we'll burn it all down. Soraya smiled. Didn't reply. Not because she didn't need love, but because this part of her journey wasn't about being defended. It was about being clear. And clarity rarely needs an audience. The world moved fast. But Soraya moved differently now. 3 weeks after leaving the penthouse, she stood in front of the mirror, of her small apartment bathroom, smoothing down the sides of her blazer. It was the same one she wore when she first started at Branson and Royce 4 years ago. Grey, clean, nothing flashy. It still fit. So did the woman wearing it. She gathered her hair into a bun. No lace wig, no layers, no glossed-over performance, just clean brows, even skin, and the kind of quiet confidence that comes from surviving something no one saw coming. She didn't need approval. She needed purpose. Branson and Royce hadn't changed. Same tinted glass doors, same dark wood floors, same security guard who still greeted her with Miss Langston and a warm nod. The front desk receptionist blinked twice when she walked in. "Soraya? Oh my, are you here to consult? Or—" "I'm here for the opening on level 12, she said. "I have the resume ready." Within 20 minutes, she was ushered into a conference room. The HR director offered coffee. She declined. He looked at her with wide eyes, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. You were one of our best. I never understood why you left. I thought I had to give something up to gain something else." She didn't elaborate. Didn't mention Silas. Didn't need to. She slid the printed resume across the table. "I'd like to return, and I'm ready to work." The man looked at her like he was trying to solve a puzzle he had no pieces for. "No offense, but you're not coming back because you have to, are you?" "No," Soraya said calmly. "I'm coming back because I want to." She got the offer the same day. Level 12. Same office view, same glass desk, same black leather chair. But everything was different now. She wasn't a woman walking into a career with a safety net back home. She was home. Every file she opened, every meeting she led, every lunch she ate at her desk instead of in silence at the penthouse kitchen island, it reminded her that she hadn't disappeared. She'd just gone quiet. Now she was back, not to prove a point, but to hold her place again. Her evenings looked different now. No chef-prepared meals, no servers bringing wine. She cooked. Simple things. Pan-seared salmon, roasted vegetables, a little garlic bread with too much butter. She sat at her small kitchen table, phone off, soft music playing from her laptop. Not because she was lonely, but because she was finally learning how to be in her own company again. No tension, no forced laughter, no eyes watching her from across a glossy counter, unreadable and cold. Just peace. She bought a new journal, hardcover, no floral designs, just black leather with thick pages. The first line she wrote: "I don't need anyone to fix me. I just needed space to find myself again." She filled the first 10 pages in 3 days, not with rage, but with clarity. Moments she had ignored, comments she excused, nights she blamed herself for being too sensitive. The truth was, her sensitivity wasn't the issue. His secrecy was, and now that the noise had stopped, she could finally hear her own voice again. Once a week, she walked into a quiet room at a youth mentorship center downtown. She sat across from teenage girls in mismatched hoodies and wide eyes and shared her story, pieces of it. Not about betrayal, but about boundaries. Not about heartbreak, but about rebuilding. She didn't need applause. She needed honesty. "You don't have to lose yourself just to keep someone," she told them. "And if someone makes you feel like love is a reward you have to earn, leave." One of the girls asked her, "How do you leave if you already gave them everything?" Soraya smiled, warm and unflinching. "You remember that everything you gave was already yours, and you can get it back, piece by piece." Silas sent roses every Friday. Different colors, different florists, different messages. "Thinking of you. I miss you. Still yours, if you'll have me." She never responded, never blocked him. She didn't need to, because silence was no longer emptiness. It was her answer. She got stronger without ceremony, not with glow-up montages or girls' trips to prove she was thriving, but in small, quiet ways, sleeping through the night without dreams that shook her, drinking coffee in peace, humming while folding laundry. No makeup, no audience, no performance, just living. And that was more powerful than anything she'd posted online. 3 months in, her apartment felt less like a transition and more like a choice. She added curtains, hung framed quotes on the wall. One of them read, Peace isn't loud, it's safe. She liked that one most, because she used to think peace was about stillness. Now she knew peace was about freedom. Freedom to leave a place you once begged to stay. Keisha came over one night with wine and curry. They sat on the floor, no makeup, bare feet, laughing at the fact that Soraya still only had 2 wine glasses in the cabinet. "You really doing this?" Keisha said, mouth full. Soraya nodded. "I really am." Keisha held up her glass. To clarity. Soraya clinked hers back. To choosing peace. Every single day. It happened on a Wednesday. A networking luncheon hosted at a midtown real estate conference. Low pressure, no stage lights, just round tables, clinking cutlery, and panels filled with smart people trying not to sound like salesmen. Soraya didn't plan on speaking. She came to listen, maybe grab a few leads for a new development partnership her firm was pitching. She wore navy, hair pulled into a sleek, low twist. No ring, no labels, no loud lipstick, just herself. And somehow, that was what caught his attention. Oren DeVoe wasn't flashy. Didn't walk in with a pack of executives or check his watch every 5 seconds. He sat 2 chairs over from her during the panel, quietly listening, jotting notes on an actual notepad, pens scratching softly while others typed noisily into their phones. She noticed his eyes before anything else. Not because they stared, because they didn't. He looked at people when they spoke, held their words without rushing to respond. And when someone gave a long-winded answer, he didn't smirk or sigh. He waited, still, present. They ended up at the same breakout table after lunch. 10 people. Small talk. Business cards sliding across the table like poker chips. Someone cracked a joke about Atlanta traffic, and Soraya chuckled without realizing it. Oren looked up. "That was a real laugh," he said, tone warm but low. She tilted her head. "You saying the others were fake?" He shrugged. "I'm saying yours had weight." The table moved on. The conversation shifted to market interest rates and zoning updates. But she felt his words stay with her, like a coat resting across her shoulders. Not heavy, but grounding. After the event, they found themselves walking toward the valet stand at the same time. The wind picked up. She pulled her jacket tighter. "You asked good questions," he said. "I used to ask them for someone else's company. Now I ask for mine." He glanced over. What changed? Everything. He didn't press. Didn't ask what everything meant. He handed his valet ticket over, then looked back at her, calm. "If you ever want to keep talking, I know a place that makes terrible coffee but great conversation." She smirked. "What's it called?" "Tuesday Cafe. They serve breakfast all day and don't play music too loud." She raised a brow. "You trying to sell me on weak coffee and quiet ambiance?" "I'm trying to offer you space." She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. She gave him a soft nod. "I'll think about it." And for the first time in a long time, she walked away from a man with curiosity, not caution, in her chest. 3 days later, she walked into Tuesday Cafe at 10:05 a.m. No makeup, book in her bag, hair in a loose ponytail. He was already there. No suit, just a soft button-down and rolled sleeves. He stood when he saw her, didn't compliment her outfit, didn't scan her body. He smiled like he was surprised, but in the best way. "You showed up. You said it had weak coffee." I had to see if that was true. They ordered. He got black coffee. She got chai with oat milk. They didn't talk about real estate. They didn't talk about industry deals or tech investments. They talked about their grandmothers, their love for pancakes after 10 p.m., how grief has no deadline, and what it means to grow alone. Not because you want to, but because you have to. He never asked about Silas. She never brought him up. Not yet. Instead, she found herself telling him things she hadn't said in months. Not dramatic stories, not wounds needing validation, just reflections. Small truths, like how peace is often quiet, and how lonely doesn't always mean empty. When she looked up, 2 hours had passed. She laughed. "You weren't lying. Coffee's awful. Told you." He smiled. Didn't reach for her hand. Didn't ask when they'd see each other again. Just said, "You want space. I respect that. But if you ever want time, I'd be glad to share mine." She walked out feeling lighter than she had in 6 months. That night, she wrote in her journal, "Maybe healing doesn't come with fanfare. Maybe it comes in chairs that don't match and coffee that tastes like rain." She closed the book, exhaled, and smiled, not because she was in love, but because someone finally offered her air without asking her to shrink to breathe it. They didn't text every day. There were no "late night you up" messages, no pressure to define what this was, no games. It wasn't about silence, it was about space. Oren knew how to leave it open. And safe. 3 days after their coffee meeting, Soraya received a short text. "I'm grabbing a table again this Saturday. In case you're craving terrible coffee and no judgment, no emojis. No hope you miss me. Just an invitation." She showed up. This time, with her own mug. When the server raised an eyebrow, she said, "Your cups are fine. The coffee deserves better." Oren smirked. Didn't say a word. They sat in the corner, same spot, and talked. About music, about the smell of fall air, about how nobody ever teaches you how to start over in your 30s. Soraya told him about Charleston, about Miss Bernice, how her grandmother made her read the newspaper out loud every Monday morning. She said the world was loud, and a black woman needed to know how to speak louder, without ever raising her voice. Oren nodded. "Smart woman." She shrugged. "She also made me scrub floors with a toothbrush. Said discipline builds dignity." He chuckled. Still smart. Midway through the conversation, she paused. Fingers curled lightly around her mug. "I used to be married." He didn't blink. "Do you still want to be?" She met his gaze. Not to him. Silence. But not awkward. It was respectful. Open. "You don't have to tell me," he said. "I will. Just not the highlight reel. I'm not here for the trailer. I'll wait for the full story, whenever you're ready." And just like that, she felt something inside her unlock. Not because he asked gently, but because he didn't need to own her pain to validate it. Over the next few weeks, they met for coffee twice more. Then a walk through Piedmont Park. Then a Saturday morning at a farmer's market, where he bought her sunflowers and didn't make it a declaration. "They looked like they belong in your kitchen window," he said. He didn't flirt with intensity. He didn't crowd her. He simply stayed. One evening, Soraya invited him over, not to the penthouse. She hadn't been back. To her small apartment. He brought dinner. No wine. Just sparkling water and pasta from a place downtown. They ate on her couch, sitting on throw pillows she bought from a clearance rack. She didn't hide her journals. She didn't hide her silence. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked once. She nodded. Not today, but soon. And he didn't ask again. When she finally told him everything, the Miami trip, the unlocked door, the robe with her initials on it, she didn't cry. Her voice was steady, measured. Oren didn't interrupt, didn't try to dissect it. When she finished, he didn't offer solutions. He reached for her hand and said, "That shouldn't have happened to you. It wasn't a line. It was a mirror." And Soraya saw her strength reflected in it. That night, he didn't try to kiss her, didn't linger. He helped her wash the dishes, then hugged her goodbye like someone who wanted her to feel what trust could be when it wasn't dressed in apology. She journaled that night. "This doesn't feel like falling. It feels like grounding." Then added, "He makes silence feel like presence, not punishment." And for the first time, she closed her eyes and fell asleep mid-thought. Hey, if this chapter touched something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who's learning to rebuild. And if you're new here, subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories for more true-to-life journeys that speak softly, but stay with you long after. It had been over 5 months since Soraya last saw Silas. No calls answered. No messages returned, no forwarded mail, no PR statements, no conversations about what really happened. She didn't need closure. She built clarity instead. Her life moved gently now, Steady work, quiet weekends, and the occasional slow dinner with Oren that felt less like a date and more like breath. No performance, no script, just presence. Until the knock came. It was a Monday morning. Soraya had just wrapped a client presentation on a midtown expansion deal. She was organizing notes when her office door creaked open. She looked up, expecting a colleague. But there he was, Silas, standing in a tailored charcoal suit that hung too loose on his frame. Thinner than before, eyes darker, hair longer around the edges. She didn't say a word. She simply blinked, then sat down, then reached for her pen. He closed the door behind him. "You look good," he said quietly. She tilted her head, not with warmth, with pause. "I'm working." "I know," he said. "I've been trying to catch you for months. You have my number. You blocked it." She looked at him flatly. "Correct." He nodded, shame crawling over his jaw. "I'm not here to beg." She said nothing. "I'm here because I needed to see what you looked like when you didn't belong to me anymore." The room fell into silence. Not heavy, not tense, just quiet in the way hospitals feel after someone has flatlined. She stood, walked to the window, arms crossed. "You could have said all this in an email. I tried. I wrote 22 drafts, deleted them all. I'm not here to read the versions of you that still don't know how to be honest." He stepped forward. "I was weak. I didn't want to be seen as someone who broke what other people envy. But I did." "Yes," she said simply. "I didn't think you'd really leave." Soraya turned, one brow raised. "You left first. I just made it official." He dropped his gaze. "I fired her. I don't care. I haven't been with anyone since. Still don't care. You were always more than I deserved." Her eyes softened, but not the way he hoped. Not with affection, with clarity. "That's true. But it took me walking away to remember it." Silas blinked. His voice broke. "I don't know how to move forward. You're doing it right now," she said. "Not without you. That's not up to me." He stepped closer. "Soraya, I still love you. You loved having me. That's not fair." "No, it's not. But it's accurate." He took a breath, swallowed hard. "I've been in therapy. Real sessions, not surface stuff." She nodded once. "Good. I'm learning where I went wrong. Also good. I'd give anything to go back." She held his gaze. "You can't." He looked away. "Are you with someone else?" She paused. "I'm with someone who listens." Silas winced, not because she meant to hurt him, but because truth stings when you've spent years hiding from it. He straightened his spine, reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a letter, folded clean, no smudges, no torn edges. "This isn't an ask, it's a thank you, for not turning me bitter when you had every right to." She took the envelope, didn't open it. "Thank you," she said, "but I don't need it to know who I am." He nodded slowly. "You're different now." "No," she said gently. "I'm myself now." He looked like he wanted to say more, but he didn't. He just stood there, letting the silence tell him everything he came to confirm. She wasn't angry. She was done. "I'll walk out first," he said, stepping back. "That's probably wise," she replied. He lingered by the door. "If he hurts you, I'll—" She cut him off, calm and steady. "He won't, because he's not trying to own me. He's just with me." Silas swallowed that truth, then left. Quietly. No slamming doors, no dramatic goodbyes. Just a man walking away from the woman who had already closed the chapter for him. Soraya waited until after work to open the letter. She didn't want to read it under fluorescent lights, between meetings or printer noises. She wanted silence. So when she got home, she changed out of her blazer, tied her hair into a scarf, and made herself peppermint tea. Then she sat at her kitchen table. Just her, the letter, and the quiet hum of the fridge in the background. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, her name handwritten in bold, careful strokes. She opened it. And read, "Soraya, I know now that love isn't what you say when you get caught. It's what you do before anyone's watching. You gave me time, respect, consistency. I gave you excuses, distraction, and performance. I didn't cheat because I didn't love you. I cheated because I didn't know how to hold something that wasn't broken. You were whole. And I treated you like a placeholder for a version of myself I hadn't built yet. That wasn't fair. It was cowardice. I'm sorry, not for losing you. That's the consequence. I'm sorry for wasting time you'll never get back. If I could gift you anything, it wouldn't be closure. It would be a world where your peace never depends on someone else's apology. Thank you for not making me your project, and thank you for not making your pain my punishment. Live well. Please. Silas. She read it once, then again, and again. Not for hope, not for regret, for confirmation. Not all apologies come late. Some come right on time, to remind you that leaving was never weakness. It was survival. She didn't cry. She didn't crumble. She folded the letter, placed it in the back of her journal, and wrote beneath it, "His honesty doesn't change my answer, but it honors my decision." Then she added, "Today, I'm proud of my silence, not because it kept the peace, but because it protected my soul." The next night, Oren stopped by. He brought her favorite, grilled shrimp with cilantro rice and avocado. He had a key now, not because she gave it, but because she offered trust, and he respected its weight. She opened the door before he knocked. "You okay?" he asked gently, noticing the softness in her eyes. She nodded, then stepped aside and let him in. They sat at the table, a small candle flickering between them. No wine, just water with lemon. After they ate, she cleared her throat. "He came to my office." Oren didn't move, didn't flinch. He waited. He looked tired, older, lighter somehow, but not in a good way. Did he apologize? She nodded, and meant it. I could feel it. And I didn't need it, she said, but it still mattered. He didn't ask if she missed him. He didn't ask what the letter said. He just asked, "Do you feel clear?" She smiled. "Yes." "Then I'm glad." Later that night, they sat on the couch. She leaned her head on his shoulder. No TV, no music, just breath and warmth. After a long pause, she whispered, "You know what I thought healing would look like?" "What?" "Power suits, new lashes, me smiling like nothing ever happened. And what does it actually look like?" She exhaled, wearing sweatpants, reading his letter without shaking, letting someone else see me without shrinking. Oren placed his hand over hers. That's the kind of peace no one can perform. Before bed, she kissed his palm. Not because it was romantic, but because he gave without taking. And that's the kind of intimacy she never had before. She wrote that night. He didn't offer to take the weight off me. He just sat beside me until I remembered I didn't have to carry it all. Then, she turned off the lamp and slept like someone who trusted morning would come, not to fix everything, but to meet her, exactly where she stood. It didn't happen all at once. There was no fireworks moment where Soraya suddenly declared she was healed. No parade, no epiphany. Just one quiet morning, standing barefoot in her kitchen, stirring oatmeal, realizing she hadn't thought about Silas once in the last 48 hours. And it didn't make her feel guilty. It made her feel new. Healing, she'd learned, wasn't loud. It didn't shout, "Look at me." It whispered, "You're safe now." And that whisper had finally become louder than the echo of everything she left behind. Oren never asked for updates. He showed up. He cooked. He laughed when she rolled her eyes at his corny jokes. He kept his arm around her shoulders when the movies got too quiet. And he listened, even when she didn't say anything. That was the most healing part of all. He didn't try to fill her silence. He let it be. And somehow, in that space, she learned to speak again. Not just about what hurt, but about what could still bloom. One afternoon, she brought him a journal entry. She set it on the table without a word, then poured 2 glasses of lemonade and waited while he read. He didn't look up until the final line. Then he slid the page back to her and said, "Thank you." Not for trusting him, not for sharing, just thank you for being. She blinked slowly, something soft rising in her chest. You always know the right thing to say. I don't, he said. I just stop when I've said enough. She smiled. That was enough. The next week, she took a bigger step. She visited Miss Bernice's grave for the first time in nearly a year. Oren offered to go with her, but she told him no. This is something I need to do alone, but if you could drive me, I wouldn't mind the silence. He nodded. They drove 2 hours to Charleston, windows down halfway, wind winding through her curls. She didn't play music. She didn't need to. When they reached the cemetery, he waited in the car, hands in his lap, eyes watching the trees sway. She walked to the headstone slowly. The flowers were still fresh. Someone else had visited. Maybe a cousin. Maybe someone from the church. She knelt, touched the name, whispered, I made it out. Then, tears in her eyes, she added, and I didn't trade myself away to do it. She sat beside the grave for 20 minutes, telling Miss Bernice everything about the penthouse, the betrayal, the robe, the apartment, the letter. The man who didn't try to win her just stood beside her while she returned to herself. When she finished, she stood, smoothed her jeans, and smiled. You would have liked him. They stopped at a roadside market on the way back. Oren bought her a mango. She bit into it, juices dripping down her wrist. He didn't offer her a napkin, just leaned in, eyes playful. You're real messy when you're free. She grinned. That's the point. That night, they slow danced in her living room. No music, no rhythm. Just her in socks, him in bare feet. Two people swaying in the kind of silence that says, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Later, curled up on the couch, she whispered, I used to wait for the other shoe to drop. Every time something felt good, I flinched. Like maybe I didn't deserve it. Oren rubbed his thumb across her knuckles. And now? Now I realize. I wasn't scared of the shoe. I was scared of staying barefoot. He kissed her hand. We'll buy more shoes. You won't have to borrow peace again. She leaned her head against his chest and exhaled. It wasn't fireworks. It was peace. And peace is louder than people think. Soraya had mastered survival. Now, she was learning how to desire again. Not from hunger, not from desperation, from fullness. The kind of wanting that blooms once you stop shrinking to fit into someone else's shadow. It began in the smallest moments, ones that would have gone unnoticed before. Like the time she sat beside Oren on his couch, their legs barely touching, and she leaned in just an inch closer. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to feel his warmth, or when she reached for his hand first, her fingers sliding between his like she finally believed she wouldn't be punished for wanting to hold something. One morning, she woke early, made pancakes, not from a box, from scratch. She flipped them one at a time, humming softly to herself, hips swaying to no music. Oren walked in, eyes still sleepy, shirt wrinkled from the night before. She turned and handed him a plate. I don't normally cook breakfast for people. He took the plate with a grin. And yet, here I am. She watched him eat, watched the way he closed his eyes after the first bite. This might be love, he said around a mouthful of syrup. She smiled. The pancakes or me? I'll plead the fifth until I've had seconds. She laughed. The sound was effortless, and for the first time, it didn't feel like she was laughing for someone else's comfort. It was hers, entirely. That afternoon, they sat on a park bench. Oren pointed to a little girl twirling in circles near the swing set. She's dizzy, but she won't stop. Soraya smiled. When I was that age, I thought spinning made the world slow down. Now I know stillness does. He turned toward her. Can I ask something? You always can. Do you want more than this? She paused. This as in us, a future, a home, not now, just someday. Soraya didn't answer right away. She looked at the sky, the clouds moving like they had nowhere urgent to be, like time didn't own them. Then she said, I used to think wanting more made me ungrateful, like I should be satisfied with survival. But I do want more. I want Sunday mornings. I want laughter in the kitchen. I want safety that doesn't feel like compromise. He didn't smile. He didn't nod. He simply took her hand. Then let's build it. At your pace. She looked at him. And what do you want? I want you to believe I'm not going anywhere. She exhaled. I believe you're here now. He kissed her hand, slow. And now is enough. That night she wrote, I am not waiting to be chosen anymore. I am choosing peace, desire, softness, partnership. A love that asks nothing in return but truth. Then she folded the page, tucked it inside her grandmother's Bible, and smiled, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of getting it wrong. She was ready to live it real. It started with a headline, Silas Marrow breaks silence. I lost her, and it was my fault. Soraya didn't click on the article. She didn't need to. The messages poured in anyway. A college friend DM'd her. Girl, did you see this? Her former co-worker texted, he really went on camera for you. Keisha sent a voice note. Want me to fight him or post the clip with commentary? Because either way, I got time. Soraya put her phone face down on the table. She was having lunch with Oren. Outdoor table. Mild breeze. Shrimp tacos between them. You okay? He asked gently. She nodded. I didn't even read it. You don't have to. He made me a symbol, she murmured. Again, Oren sipped his water. Waited. He thinks remorse is a performance, she added. And he keeps trying to win a woman who no longer lives in the body he betrayed. Oren reached across the table, took her hand. You're not a symbol. You're here, in front of me, whole, she breathed. I just wanted peace. He wants a moment. That evening, clips of the interview flooded social media. Silas sat in a studio with soft lights, hair neatly trimmed, voice calm, not performative, but clearly rehearsed. I took someone solid and made her feel invisible, he said. If I could go back, I'd hold her tighter when she asked what was wrong. I'd say more. I'd stay present. But I didn't. The interviewer leaned forward. What would you say to her now? Silas looked into the camera. I'm sorry, not because I lost you, but because I lost myself long before you walked out. You were just the first person honest enough to stop pretending we were fine. The clip went viral in hours. He's really taking accountability. That man's learning. We need more grown men like this. And under every post, the same question repeated. Has she responded? Soraya didn't. She made tea, took a hot bath, lit a candle, and didn't say a word. But by morning, it was in her inbox. An invitation from a conference she once spoke at before her marriage. A Women in Business Leadership panel. The organizer wrote, We saw the clip. Everyone's talking about your story. Would you consider joining as a featured speaker? Topic, Strength After Silence. Soraya stared at the screen. The irony wasn't lost on her. The same silence they used to ignore her story. Now they wanted her to speak into. She didn't reply right away. She forwarded the email to Keisha. You think I should? Keisha answered fast. Only if you want to. Not for him. Not for them. Soraya took a deep breath, closed her laptop, and whispered aloud, Only if it's for me. Later that week, she met with Oren at a bookstore cafe. He brought her a poetry collection wrapped in brown paper. I underlined the ones that reminded me of you, he said softly. You annotated poetry? She asked, stunned. I'm subtle. He smiled. But thorough, she laughed, opened to the first page. The first line read, She was never asking to be rescued. She was asking to be respected. Her eyes lingered there. That's it, she whispered. That's exactly it. Oren watched her, let the moment land. Then he said, You know, if you speak at that panel, you don't have to say anything about him. I know. Say something about you, about who you are now. She looked up at him, eyes clear. That's the only story I care about telling anymore. She didn't post anything after the keynote. No behind-the-scenes photos. No reposted stories. No quotes pulled from her speech. But others did. Within 48 hours, clips of her talk were everywhere. She walked out without yelling. That's power. Her robe. Her silence. Her story. Peace isn't a performance. It's a promise. It went viral. By Monday morning, blogs were writing think pieces. How Soraya Langston became the voice of soft rebellion. What we all missed while watching her marriage collapse. She didn't just leave him, she left the story we wrote for her. It should have felt validating. But Soraya wasn't celebrating, because once again, she had become a spectacle, a symbol, a narrative for others to sell. She didn't regret speaking. She just hated being consumed. At the office, her co-workers were kind, too kind. They walked on eggshells. One of the interns asked if she was accepting speaking engagements now. Another called her an icon in passing. A woman from HR whispered as they crossed paths in the kitchen, "You're so brave." Soraya nodded politely. But the only bravery she claimed was waking up every day, brushing her teeth, drinking water, and choosing not to look back. She met Oren that evening on the rooftop of a quiet wine bar. He had a table in the corner. 2 glasses already poured. No flowers. No fanfare. Just presence. "You shook the room," he said softly. "I didn't mean to, but you did. Because you spoke the truth, and it wasn't angry. It was clear." She sipped her wine, looked out at the city. "I don't want to be a movement," she murmured. "Then don't be," he said. "Be a woman who told her story. That's enough." She reached across the table and touched his hand. "I'm tired of being interpreted. Then let's live a life that doesn't need subtitles." She exhaled, a laugh tucked beneath the breath. "You're good at that." "At what?" "Making me feel like I don't need to fight for space." Oren didn't reply right away. He turned his hand over, palm up, waited. She slipped her fingers into his. No hesitation. No fear. "That's what love should feel like," she whispered. "Not like winning, like resting." That night, she turned off her phone, deleted the alerts, archived the mentions. She curled into Oren's arms, no layers between them. And when he kissed her shoulder, slow, careful, she didn't flinch. Because this wasn't a man returning to claim her. This was a man arriving with peace. The sunlight hit her kitchen window just right that morning. It landed on the counter where her journal sat open, pen still uncapped from the night before. Soraya stood in a cotton robe, no makeup, curls soft and free, watching the tea steep as if the world outside had finally agreed to slow down with her. No buzzing phone, no breaking news, no whispers about who she used to be. Just now, and now was enough. She sat at the table, pulled her journal close, and wrote without stopping. "Today, I'm not healing from anything. I'm not recovering. I'm not rebuilding. I'm living." She paused, then added, "Peace didn't knock on my door. I went out and earned it. And it didn't come with flowers. It came with boundaries, silence, self-trust, and soft mornings like this." She folded the page, pressed it closed with her hand, and smiled. This was her answer. Not to the world, not to Silas, to herself. The question had never been, "Do I forgive him?" It was, "Do I still belong to that version of me who needed to be chosen?" And the answer was no. Later that day, Oren stopped by with nothing but a paper bag of tangerines and 2 cinnamon buns. "I brought sugar and vitamin C," he said, walking in like the key he held didn't. It belonged to a borrowed space, but to a home they were building together. She grinned. "1 bun or 2? "Just half," he said, settling into her kitchen stool. "Trying to pace myself." She handed him the whole thing anyway. "You're allowed to enjoy things now. That's what you always say." "Because it's true." He looked at her. Long. Full. Present. "You look calm," he said. "I am," she replied. "I finally am." That evening, while folding laundry on her bed, her phone lit up. A number she hadn't seen in months. Silas. No text. Just a missed call. Then a voicemail. She didn't open it, didn't play it. She simply sat there for a moment, watching the screen dim, the name disappear. It didn't hurt, not anymore. She picked up a towel, folded it sharply, placed it in the drawer. Then whispered, "I'm not angry, but I'm not yours." The next morning, she visited the old penthouse building. Not to return, to donate the last set of keys. She walked through the marble lobby one last time, heels echoing softly like memories that didn't ask to be held anymore. The doorman blinked when he saw her. "Mrs. Marr." She smiled. "Langston. Just Langston now." He looked away for a moment, nodded, then opened the drawer behind the desk. She handed him the keys. "Someone else will live up there one day," she said. "Make sure they lock the door." Back in her apartment, she took off her shoes, curled up on the couch, and opened her laptop. A new email waited in her inbox. Subject, speaking request. Rebuilding without revenge. She didn't delete it. Didn't say yes either. She closed the screen, walked into the kitchen, opened the window, let the breeze move through her space like permission, then whispered, "Let them tell their stories. I'm already living mine." It was a Thursday when Oren asked her. Not a holiday, not a moment dressed in grandeur, just an ordinary evening in early spring. They'd finished dinner, roasted chicken, lemon potatoes, and a salad she barely touched because they kept laughing about the time she'd mistaken sea salt for sugar on their second dinner together. He was drying the dishes, she was wiping the counter. And then, just like that, he turned. No kneeling, no box, no script. "I want to keep doing this," he said. "Not the plates. The life." She froze. He set the towel down, stepped closer. No rush, no pressure. "But Soraya, if one day, years from now, someone asks me when I knew you were home, I tell them it was tonight. Quiet, safe, us." She didn't cry. She didn't gasp. She smiled. "Ask me again," she whispered. He blinked. "Right now?" "Yes. But not because I need a story. Because I know my answer." Oren exhaled, stepped even closer. "Will you build something with me? A future, however it looks. On your terms, at your pace." She looked into his eyes. Clear, warm, honest. "Yes," she said, not because she was afraid to lose him, because she had already found herself. And this wasn't about saving. It was about choosing, freely. They didn't rush. There were no hashtags, no announcement, just soft mornings, shared groceries, laundry folded side by side. They didn't perform love. They practiced it. One Sunday, she stood by the window with her journal, wrote the final entry on that chapter of her life. "I walked away not because I was broken, but because I refused to break for someone else's comfort. Healing is not loud. It's being held by a man who doesn't need to raise his voice to prove his presence. I'm not a survivor anymore. I'm someone who chose joy. Before anyone told me I was allowed to." She closed the journal, slid it into the drawer beside her bed, and didn't open it again. Not because she was done, but because she was finally living forward. Soraya didn't remember the last time she looked over her shoulder while walking into a room. It used to be a habit. Check who's watching. Check what they're thinking. Check how much of yourself is safe to show. But now? She walked in head up, chest steady, shoulders loose. Because when you've already walked out of a room that was supposed to be your forever, you stop being afraid of who stays. You start focusing on who shows up and stays well. Her mornings were quiet, stretching in the kitchen, jazz or silence, sometimes both. She wore cotton instead of silk, tied her robe loosely, didn't rush her tea. There was no stage to perform for, no apology to shrink into. She moved like someone who trusted herself again. Oren lived nearby. They still had their own places, still moved at their own pace, but their routines had started to overlap, intentionally. She'd text, "Shrimp tacos or curry?" He'd reply, "You pick the meal, I'll pick the wine." Some nights he stayed over, some nights she slept alone, body stretched across the bed like a woman who wasn't afraid of space anymore. They talked about everything, childhood wounds, Sunday fears, how she still flinched at the idea of gifts with expectations. I don't need surprises, she said. I just need consistency. Oren nodded. I'll never try to impress you. I just want to be solid beside you. And he was. Every day, in all the quiet ways Silas never mastered. One afternoon, they visited a new apartment together. Not to move in immediately, just to dream. The agent showed them around. High ceilings, big windows, exposed brick in the kitchen. Oren nudged her gently. Imagine dinner here, you barefoot, me burning toast. She laughed. Sounds dangerous. Sounds like home. They didn't sign anything that day, but they left holding hands tighter than usual, because dreaming didn't scare her anymore. Not when she knew she could wake up and still feel safe. That night, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror. No makeup, no filters, just her. She whispered, I love who you became. And you did it without becoming cold. Then she turned off the light and walked back into the room where a man waited for her, not with apologies or promises, but with presence. The sun dipped low as Soraya and Oren sat on the back steps of his place, bare feet, on warm concrete, 2 mugs between them, and a silence that didn't need fixing. He looked over at her, one hand resting loosely on his knee. If you ever want to stop, we stop. She tilted her head. Stop what? The dreaming, the trying. This, her brows lifted, amused. You'd really walk away if I said I wasn't sure anymore. I'd stay on the edge of your maybe, as long as you needed, but I wouldn't hold you hostage to love. She leaned against his shoulder. You don't make love feel like a sentence. You make it feel like air. He turned to kiss her forehead. You taught me that. Later that night, they stood in the kitchen. She was rinsing dishes. He was drying them. He paused, towel in hand. Do you think you'll ever go back? To what? The woman you were before him. She thought for a long time, then answered, no. She died in a robe that wasn't hers. She placed the dish on the rack and added, but I like the woman I became after. She walks slower, eats softer, loves cleaner. Oren smiled. Then I won't mourn who you were. I'll protect who you are. That night she sat by the window in her room, journal in her lap. She didn't write much, just one line. Some people chase closure. I built a door. She closed the book. Didn't need to reread the past. The lesson had settled. And so had she. 3 months later, she and Oren moved into the apartment, with the brick walls and the tall windows. They didn't call it starting over. They called it beginning real. Their furniture didn't match. Their mornings didn't rush. And their arguments were soft, not because they avoided hard truths, but because they no longer made volume a substitute for value. One night, Oren said, we're not perfect, and Soraya replied, thank God, because perfect never taught her how to stay, but presence did. She didn't block Silas. She didn't forgive him to set him free. She forgave to walk lighter. There were no final texts, no calls, no return. He faded, not because he was erased, but because she stopped being the canvas for his lessons. She was the author now, and her story no longer started with betrayal. It started with a woman in a white robe who didn't scream. She walked, and kept walking, until peace caught up with her and held her steady. If Soraya's story moved you, share this with someone who needs to remember their quiet power. Drop a comment and tell us your favorite moment. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories, where healing isn't always loud, but it's always real. Your next story might start here.